is Claire Brown, plant-based cooking instructor and health and wellness coach. And I'm here again to talk about some healthier holiday swap outs. Can you tell what we're making today? I have bread, I have celery, I have carrots, I have onion. So you're right, we're making stuffing. Well, I'm not really making it, but I am going to talk about it. Stuffing is one of those things that I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like stuffing. How can everyone likes bread, right? I know I love bread. And generally I try not to keep too much bread in the house because I will eat a lot of it. It's not that bread in itself is necessarily unhealthy, but it's not as nutrient filled as other whole plant foods, right? It's processed and it's dry, right? It's not hydrating. It doesn't have water as a component. It's not like eating a bowl of wheat berries, right, which you cooked in water and are intact. Even a whole grain bread, right, like this one, has been processed. It's made from flour. And so it just makes it a little too easy to eat, a little bit too much. And if you're eating too much of one thing, you're generally not eating the stuff that is really going to be pushing your health. So I consider bread sort of a condiment, right? It's to help the other things that I eat be amazing, right? So as a sandwich, it's not all about the bread, it's about what's the filling, right? What am I eating it with? You know, if I'm having a piece with soup or something because I just feel like I want it or need it, it's about the soup or the chili. It's not about the bread. The bread is just kind of like bringing a little extra something to the table. So in this case though, stuffing is all about bread. And as a result, we're just going to be a little more picky about what bread we use, okay? So I am totally guilty in my lifetime, hey sweetheart, of using those bags of Pepperidge Farm or whatever brand like bread cubes, right? Because I'm there the day before Thanksgiving, you know, my kids are in the cart, this is years ago, and I'm just grabbing what I can find. And generally, you know, it's bread that is not full of fiber, right? Even the ones that have like a little pumpernickel in it or whatever, it's still, you look at the label, 1 gram of fiber. I want at least 3 in my baked products. So I'm gonna use regular bread, and it's easy because you can go to the market. I'm a big buy one, get one free shopper, so when I see like a really nice loaf of, you know, organic bread, I buy the buy one, get one free, and I put it in the freezer because I don't wanna eat 2 loaves of bread that week. As a result, I have it for when it's time to make stuffing. Now, I like to kind of mix it up a little bit. So you can also use these really nice, these are shelf stable. So even if it's like a hurricane or something, you can have a really nice bread product available. These have 6 grams of fiber, which is amazing. They're a little high in sodium, but we're gonna be baking it and we're gonna be talking about how to cut the sodium and other ingredients, so be it. This is just going to give it a little more like a bite. It really just mixes up the textures and the flavors to make it interesting. And I know maybe if you've got people in your family who are just not used to that and are going to sort of push back, I get it, right? But you can start small. You don't have to put the whole loaf in. Like chop it up really tiny, like little tiny pieces, like crumple it up and put it in. They're never going to know. It'll be a secret. Anyway, so we're starting with our bread cubes. I'm not going to be chopping up all these ingredients, but we are going to talk about what we normally put in stuffing and figure out. See the nice thing? I just made half my breadcrumbs for Thanksgiving. I'm going to throw them in a bag in the freezer and they'll be ready to go. The day before Thanksgiving, I won't have to chop anymore. All right, what do we put in stuffing? Obviously, celery, carrots, onion, poultry seasoning, right? Or whatever, thyme, rosemary, whatever kind of things you like. We're not going to add the butter or margarine or fats that normally would go in there. And for stuffing, I really don't think it's necessary, right? A lot of times, you know, those home recipes are going to say like saute everything in butter or oil, even olive oil, whatever. And then, you know, put some on the top. Yes, it's going to give it that extra lusciousness, but it's giving you a lot of extra other stuff too that you really don't necessarily need to be adding to that huge holiday overload. The other thing that we're going to be careful with is salt. Now, on a holiday, you might just say, look, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm not going to worry about it. But so many people really have to watch their salt intake. The truth is that anybody who eats a standard American diet is taking in too much salt. And so a lot of times that's coming from processed food. So if you're cooking yourself, that's the first step, right? You're not using things that are already prepared for you. However, this bread has plenty of sodium. The stock you use has a ton of sodium. Now, some people you could buy like a carton and it says low sodium. You can do that. It's expensive and it doesn't taste like anything, if you ask me. So this is my trick. I use paste. This is better than bouillon. You don't have to use that brand. I'm sure you can order a million different ones on Amazon, but I can buy this at my local market. They have all different kinds. They have vegetarian, vegetable ones, even like sauteed onion and no chicken, which since I don't eat meat products is helpful for me. But even if you use a regular meat-based bouillon or whatever, if you use a paste, it's so much easier because you can control the amount you use. So for example, I don't know, how much water do you usually put in a stuffing? I guess it depends how much you make. But say you're doing a cup of water, right? A cup of boiling water to kind of make it stuffing-y. And this says you need a teaspoon, right? So if I use a teaspoon, of course I probably don't have one here. This is not a teaspoon, but we'll pretend. Then I would throw a teaspoon in, and that's their version of a serving, which is 700 milligrams of sodium. That's high, right? Especially when you add all these other things. However, if you use my cheat way, which also saves you money because you use less, I go half, right? So instead of buying the more expensive low sodium product, right, I just buy the regular one and I use half the amount. It still gives you the color, the flavor profile, it's just not as salty, right? And truthfully, with stuffing, we're throwing gravy on it anyway. That's another video. But the gravy is what's kicking it up a notch, right? So we don't need to be shoving all kinds of stuff in the stuffing itself. All right, so we're gonna use either a low sodium stock, fine, and then you can bump up your seasoning, right? So a little extra poultry seasoning, a little bit of extra rosemary or whatever it is you put in there. Another seasoning, since we're talking about low sodium cooking, is nutritional yeast. Now, a lot of people use this because it has like a cheesy flavor, they say. It's not cheesy, it's more savory, right? It makes things a little richer tasting. Why I like it, besides the taste, is it has very low sodium. So a tablespoon is only 25 milligrams. It's like nothing. Like you can put this all over everything. So if I put 2 tablespoons in my stuffing, it's not gonna taste like anything, right? Nobody's gonna say, ooh, you put nutritional yeast in there. But it's going to give just that little bit of richness that kicks it up a notch. So that's another option for seasoning. So stock, go halvesies on the amount because you've got plenty of, what do you have in here to make it taste good? You have onion, you've got carrots, you've got celery. Celery is like the salt replacer, right? It's got a natural sodium component, which is really healthy. They've done studies that show people who eat celery, it helps to drop their hypertension. And that's even though it has higher sodium than other things, but it's a natural food, right? It's not like 6,000 milligrams like a can of soup. All right, my other trick for this stuffing, really quickly, is add-ins. So we did a little swap out, now we're gonna do the add-in. Think about things, and you might be like, oh, I'm not gonna put gross stuff like kale in it. Chop it up super tiny, put a pinch, right? Like start with just a little, tiny little, they'll think it's parsley. They're not gonna even know the difference. Zucchini or yellow squash. Most people will eat this. It's pretty common. It's in like every soup. It's in, you know, all kinds of, you can even make desserts out of these things. You could shred it even with a grater. So it's like super small and fine. What's the point? The point is you're packing in more nutrition, more fiber, right? A little more diversity of food to feed your body. It's not just bread, right? Even cauliflower. They make, oh, I meant to grab a bag. They make that cauliflower rice now in the frozen section. I have one in the freezer, but I don't want to have to go over there. And you could throw even some of that in there, right? You know, that someone might say, you know, they might say like, what is that? But by the time it's mixed in with bread and gravy, they aren't gonna know the difference. And those cruciferous vegetables are the bomb. So cauliflower, riced cauliflower, squashes, any kind of vegetable that you can think of, a little tiny bit of kale, just chop it up super tiny, put it in there like a little, you know, sprinkle of parsley. They're never gonna know. And your stuffing is on its way to being a healthy side dish.